The answer is to just keep pushing, stay in motion, keep going. And you don't realize that you're just wearing yourself out. You're making
Yes.
you're making yourself weaker, and you're making yourself more susceptible to problems, and you're wearing down your thought process. But yet, it's like you think that the way you just got to keep pushing, Eventually up ahead, we're going to reach a clearing. And you have to continue. There is something to be said for perseverance. There is definitely, but there's also something to be said for fucking stopping and breathing. I didn't realize that you were out there. How'd you do?
I don't want to tell. I don't like to talk about. I'm so superstitious with it. I don't like to talk about competing and shit before I compete.
Okay.
One of the main reasons I compete is, I would say my primary reason is to test the Mushin mind. And so that's how I test everything. So I like to put my mind in a situation. I talk to some people about it. The samurai concept of Mushin mind is really, it's mind without mind. And so the samurai always train themselves to, how can I get in there and just forget the mind and lose myself in the competition? And I would say, of all the competitions I've done, this was, I was absolutely, it was perfect. My mind was perfect. And so as I was watching it do its thing, I was completely composed, and it's sometimes I've watched my mind, and it's been difficult, but I just kind of like settle in with it. And I'm like, okay, my mind's going to be kind of like freaking out, but I'm just going to deal with, I'm just going to be like, all right, we're doing this no matter what, it's kind of like my attitude. But this time I was completely calm. And not only was I calm, I was enjoying myself. And cool. That to me was, it was beautiful. So
did you just kind of just hop in? Like, were you training for it, or you were just like, fuck,
I'm always training for it, bro. I'm always thinking I'm getting ready for a competition. I was training for it. Okay. I was training for it. And so my goal was kind of to do Pans, because I don't think I'm going to be able to do Worlds. I still want to do Worlds, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to with my schedule and getting out to see my daughter in England. So I wanted to I didn't want to lose, the ability to compete in a major tournament and test this. I don't want to get rusty. And so So I was like, I'm just going to do it, So I've been training. And
how'd you do?
I took silver.
Okay. Sick.
But I was really, it really highlighted for me. So I'm a guard player, and on my guard, I felt was impeccable, man. My guard has gotten to the point that I'm like, I don't even worry about it, but so I've just been incorporating and changing my guard from a lot of inverted De La Hiva to like butterfly, butter half, Z guard, and all that. And so it was great. I had no issues with that. But for the past 2 tournaments, and this is why competition in jiu-jitsu is so important, and not, even if you don't do jiu-jitsu, testing yourself is so important, because in sparring, I have this incredible ability to think I'm great. I do great. My mind, what happens is my mind, if I get to a certain position and I don't finish on that position, my mind will kind of conveniently forget that happened. When you're in competition, no. And so what's happened to me the last 2, and I've been aware of this, what's happened to me the last 2 competitions is I have lost when I was absolutely dominating the match.
Interesting.
Where the guy I was competing against got nothing off on me, and I got to the back, got the seatbelt, got a hook, didn't get the other hook.
Wow.
Didn't finish the fight, and that's what happened. And I lost by a negative in the final.
Holy
and it was
shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now I come back on Sunday night. I'm like so livid, but also so grateful, And I flew in Saturday afternoon, competed, got up, competed, and then flew out that night. And so
So
in Texas,
you flew in day of, competed day of, and flew out same
I
day?
flew in the night before.
Okay. Okay.
Night before, got there, got to my hotel room, chilled, you know what I mean? Woke up, competed, then got right on plane and came right back. So no
Shit.
screwing around. Yeah. And so, but I felt great, you know, my weight was on, all that. Everything was great. But so that night, I really just kind of, you know, reflecting on, okay, this, I was grateful because I knew I never would have been able to, I never would have seen what this glaring weakness was, even though in a part of my mind, as I reflect back, I knew for the past few years that my one weakness in my game is two weaknesses that I know I have. I'm not that great at mount. I don't stay at mount.
Yeah.
And so I typically go right to knee on belly and then go to north south. But I also knew that I wasn't finishing from the back and I was losing the back a lot. Right.
Yeah.
So I either need to, you get to the back and you don't get pass points, you know, until you come on top. So once I got back on Sunday night, the next day I was in the gym and I grabbed, you know, David Husley's is the professor who teaches Nogi and he's really, really good from Texas, black belt. And we grabbed like 4 or 5 black belts. And guess what we did? An hour straight of me on the back with no hooks.
Okay. It's hard to finish. It's hard to finish on the back.
And guess what we did on Tuesday?
Huh.
An hour straight of me on the back with no hooks.
Yeah.
Right. And guess what we did last night?
Yeah.
On the back, no hooks.
Yeah.
And guess what happened after
that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's how you do it. After 30 minutes, guess what? 30 minutes. And then I have these black belts and every one of them and another brown belt had another tip. Well, this is how I do it. This is how I do it. This is how I do it. At the end of 45 minutes, I had a complete system. And before this, I used a system from Gordon Ryan. And, you know, it's like with everything in life, you know, diet, whatever it is, some things work for you, some things don't. And that system that he had did not work for me. So this new system that I have was by the end of 45 minutes, I was getting everybody. I got my points on almost everybody every time. By Tuesday, I was getting everybody. And even last night when I was rolling with David, and David's like really, really high level. He was like, dude, that was insane. And so I felt it too, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, but what's remarkable about it is that, you know, transcending jiu-jitsu or martial arts is that we have to be aware, you know, that our minds have so many freaking blind spots.
Sure.
So I was like, I don't have a problem, you know, or at least I knew I kind of had a problem and I was able to ignore it. And guess what? After losing when I should have won at Worlds last year, that wasn't enough to make me face the mirror and look at my blind spot. So I went through a whole nother year of training, not getting the back. And so now I had to do it again. So that's life kicking me in the teeth twice.
Yeah.
Twice life kicked me in the teeth before I had the courage or whatever you want to call it to face my blind spots and start going, you know what? I'm working on this. This is no longer acceptable.
And it takes time to figure out like the nuances and the details and how that relates to life is just like there's like, you know, I mean, you know, jiu-jitsu guys always relate jiu-jitsu to life, but there's a lot of truth to it. But so where I've been struggling a lot is bottom half, bottom quarter guard, even in the knee shield. Like what'll happen is I'll be playing guard and a lot of the guys I train with are pretty big and strong. And so like they'll pass my guard and then they'll kind of like, you know, I'll be playing like this So I'm successfully denying the crossface, but they're really smashing me on my left shoulder, right? And I'm having a hard time getting the underhook to then kind of shuck over and then either sweep or get out. And so my professor noticed this in a few rounds, and today, and then the last time we trained, he's like, I'm noticing what the problem is. You're getting smashed, and you're trying to in one motion, you're trying to pull your arm out and come up for the underhook. And he goes, if the guy's bigger and stronger than you, you're not pulling your arm out. He goes, but if instead of pulling your arm out, if you bend the elbow down, adjust with your leg, now the ability to get that arm out is substantially easier. But under pressure, you're doing what humans do. You're trying to force your way out of the situation. And you're not going to force your way out of the situation. You need to stop, think, small adjustment. And now we train that all morning today. And by the end of the session, it's like, oh my God, like how, just a tiny adjustment. And it's like, that is a gigantic world of difference. And it's like, how often in life do we try to force the square peg in the round hole, but, with a little bit of our breathe, stop, think, what's the way through this? And there is one, there always is one, you know what I mean? But we don't, it's not how we operate. And it's wild.
And I love that story, because like what I get out of that story is like how, I think it's so important. We talked about it before about how critical it is to have, mirrors for your mind, because we can't see our own eyes without a screen or a mirror. We also can't see that reflects it back on us. So to have a sensei, to have someone that you train under that can look at your game and say, dude, you got a problem here, man.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We need that in life too, outside of martial arts, right? To say, whoa, put on the brakes here. You got an issue here, and you're running into this issue. You're not, whatever it is, you're stuck. You're stuck. You keep hitting this roadblock.
And I think that like things that we've talked about, both on and off the show, is like, I mean, at least from my perspective, it's constantly defaulting to the answer is to just keep pushing, stay in motion, keep going. And you don't realize that you're just wearing yourself out. You're making you're making yourself weaker, and you're making yourself more susceptible to problems, and you're wearing down your thought process, but yet, it's like you think that the way, you just got to keep pushing. Eventually, up ahead, we're going to reach a clearing. And like, you have to continue, there is something to be said for perseverance. There is definitely, but there's also something to be said for fucking stopping and breathing. And I know that in my life I have.
And assessing the situation, right?
Yep. But like you said, I think that's interesting to say, like, we can't see our own eyes rather than a screen or a mirror. And, you can't always, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're oblivious to yourself. You can't see would be obvious to somebody else. And you're negotiating with yourself.
I love that, because what it reminds me of is like, trying to get to a destination, walking life at oftentimes is like a thick forest, and you're just like, I just need to keep walking. I need to keep walking. Did you ever think that maybe you think you're walking towards the ocean and you're walking towards the desert? Did you ever think that maybe your trajectory is wrong? And so maybe you need to stop and climb a tree and get some perspective on where you're going.
Yes.
Unbelievable. And I think what happens is that we have this addiction to doing as if that is going to, well, if I don't if I just keep going, then I don't have to look at myself. I just read this amazing quote, which is that, a lot of people, and we all know people like this, maybe we've even done it ourselves, they're always looking for an enemy, right? And the reason our minds, I don't want to fault that person or this, it's all of our minds will look for an enemy. Why? Because when you have an enemy, you don't have to look at yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at yourself. You could just look at the enemy, blame everything on the enemy. You can, you know what I mean? And it allows you to just, again, project outward. Anything that our minds can do to extrovert and go outwards keeps us from having to go inward. And inward in our culture is such a thing that people don't want to do. It's very uncomfortable. Who wants to admit, again, let's use the jiu-jitsu metaphor, but when you roll in a very small gym with just a few guys and you smoke everyone, that feels good, but it's not reflective of reality.
No. That's why I think cross training is so important, like going to other places and experiencing different games, and both positive and negative. Sometimes you get washed.
Yeah.
Sometimes so in my gym, most of the guys are higher level, bigger. We got a crop of white belts that, but like most of the guys are, better than I am. And, and I'm usually, the nail. But the few times that I go other places, and I went one time with my professor to a friend of his spot, and like I dominated, and I was like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Like it was like, I remember like I couldn't wait to walk out, and he's like, keep it in your pants, bro, keep it in your pants. Like fucking, like by the time we're walking out to the parking lot, I'm like, holy shit, man, fucking
yeah.
And but like you don't know that if you don't have perspective. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting stuff.
No, it really is. Yeah. So, we always have to look for it. So for me in my life, like the biggest mirror that I can always find is competition, in the sense that it puts so much pressure and it gives me an opportunity not only to test my art, which I love, but more importantly, to test my mind. What is my mind doing? Is it freaking out? Is it no? Or is it calmed? And you know what I mean? So yeah, I was really grateful.
It's literally being the man in the arena, and not a lot of people get to experience that in modern day life. People do everything they can to not put themselves in scenarios like that. But when you go in and you slap bump and it's go time, it's two dudes or two, gals, two humans that are going to say, okay, but we're going to put the bullshit over here and we're going to fucking scrap. And we're gonna test each other's mettle with there's no excuses, and that's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. And you I mean, I've told people all the time, like, you don't even know, like, from years of doing this, the things that you're capable of, that you're not even aware that your body is capable of, that your mind is capable of. Like, you'll never know if you don't toss yourself into the fire. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's like there's a part of me that's like, I don't ever want to not compete. I love it. I love the guy, even the guys I compete against. I'm always telling them how grateful I am for them. What was really cool is I was in the bullpen with one of my other clients that I've worked with in the past, and he was kind of nervous, and I was like, all right, man, listen, calm down, take some breaths. What I tell people is, like, when you're in a nervous situation like that, whatever the situation is, and I was working with a kid from our gym who had a super fight 2 weeks ago. Name's Priam. He did really good. But before, 2 days before, I was like, listen, he was like, I'm getting really nervous. I'm like, yeah, your mind is supposed to get nervous. That's okay. But and so I walked through the steps of Motion Mind and what we're doing there. But one of the things that I taught him was, is breathe in for 5 seconds and count each second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then breathe out for 6 seconds and count each breath, and do it every time. And what happens is when, one of the ways it's we can't control our autonomic nervous system, our heartbeat, and all that, except the one part of our nervous system that we can, of that system that we can control, is our breathing.
Mm.
So when we control our breathing, we inadvertently control the rest of our autonomic breathing or nervous system. So when you're breathing out, you're actually slowing the heart rate. And when you're counting, you preclude the mind from doing anything else because you're occupying the mind. And he started doing it. And after he had a super fight, he was like, I cannot believe how much that helped me. That was
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. So I was working when I was in the bullpen, and I saw one of my clients. I didn't even expect to see him. Oh, he told me like a few days before he would be there, and we just happened to be in the bullpen together. And so I worked with him on that. And then I said, at the end of right now, what I want you to do as you're doing this breathing is I want you to look around, and I want you to be absolutely take it all in, look at every detail you can, and be grateful that you are here, because the opportunity that you have right here, right now, you will not always have. And
Sure.
most people in the world will never get to experience what you're experiencing right now. So do it for them, right?
Yeah.
Do it for yourself, do it for them. And when you feel the gratitude for a situation, even if it's an adverse situation, it kind of releases that tension, And
Sure.
afterwards he was like, oh my God, like he posted on social media, is like, oh my gosh, that was so good. So yeah,
Great.
we have these tricks, but it's like those things are just, they really transcend, martial arts or competition or anything like that. When we're in this tough situation, I know a lot of people just had an election, right? And, like with any football game or whatever it is, half the people go home happy and half the people go home sad,
Yeah.
and, and the pendulum just swings, whatever it is. And so it's like, listen, man, you need to stop and be, grateful that, you're in one of the most historic times in the history of civilization with AI that's happening, and what we're on the verge of perhaps, unlocking fusion energy. I mean, we could be we're probably in an ancestor simulation, right? In which our future, our artificial intelligence selves are like, this hive mind is like, I want to experience whatever it was at the birth of, this new iteration of humanity. That's kind of like what I tell myself, right? And we're just back here experiencing it because it's so historic. We're at the most historic apex or inflection point in probably all of human history.
Maybe like, the discovery of fire,
or the discovery of language.
Yes.
It's a technology. Those are fire's a technology. All these things are technology. The written word is a technology. The printing press is a technology. The internet is a technology. So
no, but this is potentially the most significant event that's ever existed in human history.
Ever existed. So and Bill Gates was just talking about that. He's like, we have the difference between this technology and all other technologies is that the cap on this
is infinite.
Is unlimited. It's infinite. He's like, we've never discovered the combustion engine, an amazing technology, but we've reached, they're not going to go any faster with a combustion engine, right? Even the electric engine, it's incredible, but how much faster are you really going to be able to go?
Yeah.
So this is that one thing that's like, no, it's infinite. Even think about space travel, and we, what I mean? Where are we really going? Maybe we'll go to Mars. I think the difficulties with radiation and all that in space, could put a cap on it, where human organisms like ourselves will not be able to travel. Right. Yeah. But what will be able to travel?
The AI.
The AI unburdened by, organic carbon based, meat suit. It'll go throughout the whole entire cosmos. And guess what it'll do while it's traveling?
Record every aspect of what's going on.
Yes, but even better, it'll be to spend the time. It'll be running ancestor simulations, where it revisits this point. So we're at a great time. Right? It's a beautiful time, right? It's like, at the end of the day, so there was an election. So it was, your side didn't win or whatever, or your side did win, whatever it is, who cares? In the scope of where we are right now.
It puts things in perspective into where like there's a lot more playing out, while we're, dealing with these trivialities.
Yeah, exactly.
These things
I
that are
run to the store and pick up my dry cleaning or whatever it is. It's like, I'm late for this, or it's like, come on, man. That's not, who cares?
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah, bro. That's good, man. You been watching anything or reading anything?
Not really. No.
Dude, there's a really good show. I keep talking about it. I think it's because it's like the only service that I really watch right now is on Apple TV. Because I'm such a cult of Mac guy,
Yeah.
But and I always have been. But there's this show on there called Shrinking, and it is dope.
Yeah.
Jason Segel, Harrison Ford.
I saw like the first 5 minutes of the show, but dude, I meant to watch it.
It's really good, man. It's really good. It's kind of heavy, man. It's like Jason Segel, I'll tell you, is raising his daughter, and his wife, the love of his life, died. And before she died, they had like a horrific argument. And so he's just like a mess.
Yeah.
And he's a psychologist.
Yeah.
And so he's a therapist, and that's why it's called Shrinking. And Harrison Ford is also so it's dope, man. It's so good, man.
I met
just started second season. Go ahead.
I ran into Harrison Ford at a hotel in New York City last year. I met him in the elevator. He was a really cool guy. I was with my kids, and he was just by himself. We were staying on the same floor, and he was by himself. And I get in and I'm like, "You're Harrison Ford." He's like,
"You're like, bro." He's like, "Yeah, I am."
And shook his hand or whatever, and we rode down to the hotel together in the elevator. Super cool guy, regular dude. And it was interesting to see him alone. He didn't have security, he didn't have like assistants or anything.
I know, isn't that crazy, man?
He was just a dude at a hotel. It was cool.
That's wild. He's he's one of the most iconic stars in the world,
Yeah.
I'd be a little worried I'd get John Lennon,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyways, so that's a good one. I'm really digging that. And other than that, man, just keep training.
Yeah, I'm getting back into a groove. Horse. I'm getting back into a groove. I've been not and I'm hurting. I gotta go get some like manual therapy on I got fucking like my thumb is numb from like pinched nerves in my neck and my shoulder. Like I need someone to get under the hood.
See that scar right there, man.
Yeah.
3 artificial discs in the neck. 6-hour surgery, go in and open it up right there, and then they put a vise on each level, and then they pry it apart.
Was it like a direct injury or was it over? Yeah, I can see it. Was it a direct injury or was it over time?
It was from playing football when I was American football.
Okay.
When I was a kid. When I was 18, 18, and I was playing senior, I was a linebacker, and I would get stingers down my left side every practice. Yeah. So I was doing no one knew anything then. We were morons.
Yeah.
Coach was like, "Don't be a pussy. Don't be a pussy." Meanwhile, my arms like hanging, and so I just get out there and bang, and
yeah, you just kept going.
And always, and then after that, when I would playing in a band, because after that, when I went to college, I was like, I'm not playing any sports. Friends were like, "Let's go play rugby," or I'm like, I want to play in a band and get girls. I don't want to do
Yeah.
any, you know what I mean? I've already
Uh,
done that. I don't want a lifetime of athletics,
yeah.
you know? But after that, I'm sure you can identify with this. I had a Les Paul, you know, a guitar. In
Heavy.
case people don't know, it's a heavy guitar.
It's heavy.
And I
Yeah.
had so many neck issues with playing that guitar,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, which is why I love playing my SG, because it's like, you know, 70% of the weight, and it's just
Yep.
feels so good on it. You know?
I think I told you about this. I have a chambered Les Paul from 2007, and it's substantially lighter. Makes a major difference.
I can't wait to come up there and play it, man.
Yeah,
I cannot
it's dope.
wait. I cannot wait. All right, bro. This was a good one, man. Good one.
Absolutely.
Good one.
Absolutely, bro.
Till next time, man. Os.